Welcome to ClayEnterprise Newsletter, episode 5. And I'm your host, Terence Clay, and we about to jump right into it, man. And on today's episode, we got lab-grown chicken cannot be sold in the USA. We also got 13-year-old survives being bitten by alligator in Winter Springs, Florida. Amazing. We also got Florida parents forgetting that their kids is in the hot-ass car. Amazing. And last but not least, we got family demands transparency after man killed by police in downtown Orlando. Up first for trending, we got the lab-grown chicken cannot be sold in the USA. Ain't that by the bitch?
That's where it all starts, just a few cells.
2 cultivated meat producers now getting the green light to begin commercially selling their chicken, not raised on a farm, but in a facility. The meat is grown using real animal cells and large bioreactors fed with nutrients. I recently got a tour of California-based Upside Foods, the nation's first and largest cultivated meat producer.
You're making chicken in there.
Yeah, so if you look at this is approximately a 200+ liter tank. And we take cells from a chicken or an egg. It takes 2 weeks to grow the equivalent of 1 chicken, 1,000 chickens, or 100,000 chickens.
So you're saying in this factory, you can make more meat faster and cleaner than an average farmer?
Well, ultimately, yes.
The company says cell-cultivated meat could help feed the world's booming population using a fraction of the land and water of animal farming and help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Many experts say more study is needed.
Won't catch me eating no motherfucking lab-grown chicken. I wouldn't give a damn. Next up, man, we got plan to arm Flagler school employees voted down.
We have a problem in this country. It's a huge problem.
Mass shootings plague this country, and schools are not exempt. After the deadly massacre in 2018 at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, the Coach Aaron Feast Guardian Program was established. It acts as a, quote, force multiplier to enhance safety and add another layer of security in Florida schools. Along with school resource deputies, volunteers employed with Flagler County Schools, known as Guardians, will be on the front lines to stop an active assailant.
I can't think of a reason why we wouldn't want to have extra support for our SRDs.
Even as a parent, would I feel safer knowing that there's a guardian at my children's school? Absolutely.
The board voted against the Guardian program 3-2.
Adopting a resolution without any of the real details ironed out, without having any policies in place, makes me feel very uncomfortable.
The Flagler County Sheriff's Office would have worked with the district to create and execute a plan. A candidate for the Guardian program must complete a minimum of 144 hours of extensive training provided by the Sheriff's Office, undergo a psychological evaluation, and drug test.
So even with the best training in the world, accidents can happen, and the consequences with that can be deadly.
Flagler resident and veteran Michael Cocciola thinks the program is dangerous.
And I've fired these things, and I've dealt with stressful situations, and there's no situation where more guns added to a stressful situation helps the situation.
Moms for Liberty member Claudette O'Dowd was disappointed it wasn't approved.
I feel that it would be more safer with the added protection.
Yeah, man. Crazy ass motherfuckers trying to arm the teachers and everybody. They don't do nothing but shoot the damn kids up. Next for trending, we got number of child pedestrians killed by cars in the U.S. increasing.
The organization Smart Growth America releases an annual report that for almost 10 years put Orlando among the worst places for pedestrians. Until last year, Daytona Beach took its place instead. Just Tuesday, the American Academy of Pediatrics, or AAP, released its newest report, revealing that pedestrian deaths have decreased consistently over the last 30 years, but not among children. The AAP says child pedestrian deaths have increased by 11% since 2013, especially among those over 10 years old. Children living in low-income areas often have interrupted sidewalk networks and larger roads with a higher traffic burden, increasing their risk immensely. One concern cited by the report, autonomous vehicles that rely on software, cameras, and sensors to note and predict pedestrian behavior. But children's small size and unpredictable behavior can throw off that algorithm. The solutions, the report says, have to come from the environment, drivers, and walkers. They recommend changing policy and planning to ensure roads aren't just for drivers, but for all pedestrians, bicyclists, and others. For drivers, it's a behavioral change, mostly slowing down. For walkers and parents of walkers, keep these tips from the AAP in mind.
Goddamn kids be crossing the street, ain't looking both ways and shit. Damn now, tighten up. Next on trending, we got Juneteenth not even considered a state holiday in Florida.
The historic day was June 19th, 1865. 2.5 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, the last remaining slaves in Galveston, Texas, learned they were free. All weekend, local festivities mark the third year of this newest federal holiday. But Florida remains one of 22 states in which Juneteenth is recognized, but is not a state holiday. Several bills have been filed in the last 3 years to declare Juneteenth Day as a paid holiday for employees of all branches and agencies of state government. All failed in the Republican-led legislature.
So we're in a very dark period right now.
Democratic Orlando State Senator Geraldine Thompson founded the Wells-Built Museum of African American History and Culture. She's critical of efforts by Governor Ron DeSantis and Republicans. They passed the Stop Woke Act, which bans certain diversity training in the workplace and school instruction. Critical race theory is outlawed. And earlier this year, the State Board of Education rejected some topics in the AP African American Studies course for high school students.
How do you celebrate Juneteenth being the end of slavery if you can't admit that slavery occurred, that it really existed? So that's where we are, this effort to whitewash history.
Thompson says Democratic leadership this year declined to refile the Juneteenth bills, expecting a chilly reception from Republicans. But she plans to file it next year.
I celebrate July 4th, and I think we can celebrate June 19th as well as part of America's journey toward making all people free, not just some people free.
I mean, growing up, we ain't celebrate Juneteenth, so I really don't have no problem with that shit not being a state holiday in Florida, you know what I'm saying? That's like a preference thing. If you prefer to celebrate it, then go right on ahead. Ain't nobody got no problem with that, you feel me? And last but not least, for trending, we got 3 San Antonio officers charged with murder.
Suspended without pay after killing a woman armed with a hammer inside her own apartment.
Hey, lady, get over here.
Just after midnight Friday, officers were responding to a vandalism call.
Get over here.
46-year-old Melissa Perez was suspected of cutting wires to a fire alarm system. Police followed Perez to her first-floor apartment, where they say she locked herself inside. An officer removes the screen to her open window. Perez hits the officer with what appears to be a glass candle.
You're gonna get shot!
Shoot me! You ain't got no warrant!
Here's a wider angle of the confrontation.
You ain't got no warrant! Hey, watch out!
They say Perez then swung a hammer, shattering a window. Officers then fired the deadly shots. According to police, Perez was hit at least twice. Paramedics pronounced her dead at the scene.
It appeared that Ms. Perez was having a mental health crisis.
The police chief adding the officers' actions were not consistent with policy and training. Sergeant Alfred Flores and officers Eleazar Alejandro and Nathaniel Villalobos were suspended without pay and later arrested on murder charges. According to court documents, they have since been released on bond.
I'm just heartbroken. There's no words that can express the hurt that this has caused my family.
The police chief vowing to thoroughly investigate. Dana Griffin, NBC News.
Well, that's the end of trending, man. Up next, we got the local news. Up first for the local news, we got amount of Florida hot car deaths in 2023 surpassed last year's record.
Amazing.
That's a damn shame.
That's how Amber Rollins, director of Kids and Car Safety, feels every time she hears about another death of a child left in a hot car. This week, that tragedy was in Lakeland.
One of the most horrible, tragic deaths that we've seen in a very long time.
Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said Joel Rondon and Jasmine Rondon went to a July 4th party with their kids, including their 18-month-old daughter.
When they arrived at the house, Jasmine took the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old into the house, said, "I'm going to give them something to eat," and put them to bed. And Jasmine told Joel, "Bring the baby into the house."
But Judd says Joel ran some food inside and saw the back door of the car was closed. He assumed that meant the baby had already been brought in. He didn't realize that wasn't the case until the next morning.
He goes to the car, and there is the baby still strapped in the child carrier in the car with a heat index 105 degrees on that day.
The tragedy moved Florida to 5 hot car deaths so far this year. That's half of the deaths that have occurred in the United States in 2023, and more than Florida saw in all of 2022. But Rollins says the increase didn't come as a surprise. She says hot car deaths have gone up coming out of the pandemic.
The years after, sort of as we come out of the pandemic and people start going back into the office more often, we are seeing those numbers go back up.
Rollins' recommendations include look before you lock, check your back seat before you hit that button. She also encourages being more mindful when there are changes to your routine, if you're running late or if you've taken a detour. But Rollins believes technology is the biggest prevention tool parents could ultimately have.
We really believe that until we have technology in all vehicles, this is going to continue to happen because nobody believes it can happen to them. And if you believe something's not going to happen to you, you're not taking precautions to prevent it.
These motherfuckers is forgetting the damn kids in the car. Ain't that about a bitch? God damn, now people out there got to do better, man. But up next for the local news, we got cocaine found washed up shore in Ormond Beach.
So we went to our normal spot and went and walked the beach. It was just typical.
Walking the beach in Florida, you never know what the waves will bring in.
Typical looking down for stuff, and there's this black book type thing just in the shore. It wasn't even, it was sitting on the shore. It wasn't even in the waves.
Lauren Bevan's walk on Ormond Beach turned into her finding over 1 kilogram of cocaine.
I kicked it around. I was carrying my 18-month-old, so it was I was like, what do I do here? I kicked it around. I tried to see, it was heavy.
Bevan says a crowd ended up gathering around, a fisherman cutting open the black packaging.
Oh my God, this is...
Volusia deputies getting to the scene, confirming what the white substance was.
They tested it and they were like, yeah, they told me a price amount of what it was and that it was cocaine, and I was just like, I convinced myself it was soap. It looked very soapy.
The sheriff's office says it's not exactly rare for an illegal substance to wash up on the beach, especially being here in Florida. But this is one of 2 times in the last few days for it to happen here in Volusia.
Wrecked pretty good, huh?
Yeah. I went online and I saw that there's been several
of them washing up?
Yeah, washing up.
This is deputies' body camera from the second large block found yesterday evening in Ormond Beach, this time weighing in at over 2 kilograms. It's part of an uptick sheriff's offices across the state are reporting in washed up drugs. The Martin County Sheriff's Office also reported bricks of cocaine washing ashore on Jupiter Island in the last few days. While some speculate, the source hasn't been confirmed.
I mean, you hear about it happening, I guess, down south and places like that, and it's never going to happen to you. Like, I don't know. I was shocked. I'm still a little bit like, what was that?
God damn, why it can't never be me come across that type of little shit just floating in the motherfucking ocean? I've been made a meal ticket off of that shit, you know what I mean? But anyways, moving on to the next. Ocala homeowner slept in closet waiting for the squatter that was sleeping in his damn house.
I can't sleep without the gun on my person.
This Ocala homeowner isn't sure how long it'll take him to be comfortable in his own home again. Police say Zamoya Brown had been squatting in the house for months months and absolutely trashed the place while he was there.
I look at it and all I want to do is cry.
This no trespassing sign didn't do the homeowner any good. He says he was out of town and noticed his electric bill going up. That made him suspicious, but it wasn't until he arrived back at home that he realized what had happened. The day the homeowner got back in town, he says he saw his door ajar, the house disheveled, but no one there. He called police to report some stolen items, including an electric scooter, guns, tools, and documents like a social security card and the deed to his house. He decided to sleep in the closet just in case someone showed up.
Open my eyes, and here's this guy at the bedroom door. And the door's open about this wide, looking straight down at me. So I freaked. I jumped up with my pistol and said, "Get the out of my house."
The police report recounts the two arguing over who owns the house. The homeowner fired a shot into the floor.
Now he starts saying, "You can't do that. You're going to jail. I'm going to call the police." I said, "Good, call the police." And he did.
He's the one who called police?
Yeah.
When
Amazing.
police asked the homeowner if he wanted to press charges, he said at first he just asked if Brown could be trespassed.
I said, I don't want the guy to go to jail. He reminds me of my son in a way. Tall, skinny, too smart for his own good, and dumb as a bag of rocks at the same time.
Brown wound up being charged with trespassing, plus possession of methamphetamine and marijuana.
That man wasn't playing by this house, man. Motherfucker went in there and staked out. Waited for the squatters to come there. Ain't that about a bitch? On to the next. We got man accused of breaking into Orlando home and striking people with some type of damn garden tool or some shit. But anyways, he wrote a letter to the judge too, trying to apologize and shit.
51-year-old Lindell Dimps faces more than a dozen charges, including attempted felony murder, home invasion, and 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Officers were called to a home on Mallard Pond Court, not far from North Lane, around 2 a.m. on June 15th. I want you to take a look at just a moment at a surveillance photo. Detectives say Dimps entered the victim's home through the back patio, confronted the homeowner with a pair of long-handle branch cutters. You see him there, striking him in the head and knocking out one of his teeth. Police say Dimps also attacked more adults inside and stole their cell phones and money and then got away. Later that day, violent crimes detectives arrested him. Orange County Clerk of Court records say, in addition to his confession, Dimps wrote an apology letter which stated in part, "I sincerely apologize for any pain or stress that I may have caused to you and your family. I am homeless and I was only looking for something to eat until you discovered me on your back porch, and the only reason that I did not leave sooner was because of the heavy rainfall." He goes on to say he wished the outcome was different. Lindell Dimps is in the Orange County jail.
Folks ain't trying to hear that shit, man. On to the next for the local news. We got man charged in disabled girlfriend's death.
This is where police found a 59-year-old woman in poor health laying on the floor in unsanitary conditions. Officers say the home was dirty and there was animal feces inside. She was found in January 2022. She died a couple of weeks after being taken to the hospital. Now, more than a year later, her partner, Robert Bradford, was arrested.
What was determined through the autopsy was that the medical conditions that she was in were a direct result of his negligence.
Police say the woman was malnourished and had sepsis, among other issues. They believe her conditions could have been avoided if Bradford, her legal caretaker, had gotten help. An arrest report also claims Bradford was cashing the woman's Social Security checks, using the money on living expenses, food, beer, and marijuana.
He was taking her disability checks, depositing them into his account, and not providing the medical attention or care that she needed.
Bradford is now facing a manslaughter charge and up to 30 years in prison. The situation inside this trailer was eventually reported by one of the victim's relatives.
I mean, if you have a loved one that you haven't heard from, that you know could be vulnerable or in a vulnerable health condition, absolutely call us.
Ooh, they gonna put his ass under the jail. But anyways, on to the next. 13-year-old boy bitten by alligator while swimming in Central Florida Creek.
All I saw was his head, and then I just tried to push it off.
Amazing.
A 13-year-old shares his story after a gator bit him in a Seminole County creek.
He was rushed to the hospital after the Tuesday evening incident in Winter Springs, but he is now recovering at home. Wester's Dave McDaniel spoke with him and has the up-close and personal details.
We've been in this creek a bunch of times, so no one thought anything of it.
13-year-old Gabriel Clemis was enjoying Tuesday afternoon with some Howell Creek swimming until
I was gonna get up, and then the gator just started like pulling me back under and just jumped up and grabbed me.
It was self-defense at that point.
I just like started like hitting it in the head, and then it let go, and then I just ran up on the sand.
Neighbors had told us that they've seen big alligators in Howell Creek before. The boys never had until Tuesday. It freaked out Gabriel's 10-year-old brother.
My first thought was like, you're gonna die, because I've never seen a gator bite that like happen in person.
I just got bit by a gator. We were thinking the worst initially.
A physician herself, she was startled by the message from paramedics.
And they told me, you know, we're going straight to Arnold Palmer with your son. And I said, oh, Arnold Palmer. I said, okay, is it that bad? She said, well, do you want to see it? And then as soon as I took one glance, I said, to Arnold Palmer right away, let's go.
She snapped this photo of her upbeat son in the hospital. It will take a bit for him to fully heal. The bandage from above the hip to the upper thigh.
Huge concern for infection. We talked with infectious disease. They said about 10 days. So we're really out of the woods just because of how deep the wound was and the creek water. The pain is like kind of like just coming back a little bit more because I don't have like the pain meds or anything, but it's not too bad. Fish and Wildlife says an 8-foot gator was caught Wednesday evening. They will keep monitoring Howell Creek.
Yeah, boy, it's summertime, boy. Them kids better stay out them goddamn creeks and them goddamn canals and shit like that. Up next for the local news, we got Bentleys, Rolls Royces, among other luxury cars stolen from valet in Orange County by a couple.
Over the last 30 days here in Orange County and throughout Central Florida, we've experienced a bit of a crime trend uptick.
Orange County Sheriff's Office say they need the public's help. In the past month, deputies say they responded to a number of hotels and restaurants in Orange County after thieves broke into valet stands and stole the keys of a number of high-end vehicles.
We experienced the theft of a Bentley. We experienced the theft of a Rolls-Royce Phantom. We experienced the theft of an Audi. We experienced the theft of a Ford Expedition, as well as BMW.
Lieutenant Paul Volkerson says so far 2 vehicles were recovered, an Audi and a Ford Expedition. Volkerson saying a Mercedes G-Wagon Benz was also stolen in Winter Park.
And we have outstanding warrant for 1 individual and have made an arrest of another individual.
Joshua Gonzalez and Yamilte Torres Gomez are both being charged with 2 counts of grand theft and criminal mischief. And deputies say the pair is a couple. In an arrest report, deputies say both are seen taking the now 2 recovered cars, a Ford Expedition and an Audi. Investigators still working on a motive, but say tracking was disabled almost immediately.
We believe there may be another motive, whether they're going to bring them to a chop shop or change the VIN numbers on the car. We believe there might have been other motivations with it.
I thought it was a prank at first. I'm like, is this a joke? No way.
Cora Johnson, a real estate agent, says her $300,000 Bentley was stolen while she was having dinner in Icon Park.
And he's like, your car's not there. And I look at the attendant. He was like, literally, he ran over to me. He was like, someone just stole your car not even a minute ago.
Johnson's car has still not been recovered. Deputies say there may still be more people linked to these vehicle thefts, but in the meantime, they urge everyone to be careful when using valet.
If anyone has any information on any of these cases, we'd appreciate them calling Crime Line or the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, well, that's it for the local news. Now it's time to get into the breaking news. For the breaking news, we got Ben Crump to represent man killed by police in downtown Orlando, and the family demanded that they release the video. Check this shit out.
Roughly the first minute of the officer's video on July 3rd has no audio, but shows him and 2 other officers on their bicycles riding near the area of Robinson and Orange. About 1 minute in, audio is engaged.
Hey, turn off the car. Turn it off.
And you begin to see the moments the officers confronted Derek Diaz as he sat in his car.
Now, give me that. Give me the other one and put your hands on the steering wheel right now. Don't move. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Put your hands on the steering wheel.
Instantly after the shooting, the officer backs away. Moments later, Diaz is pulled out of the car and the officer who opened fire began doing chest compressions. You can hear what appears to be Diaz moaning as this is happening. Diaz would be pronounced dead later that day.
Put your hands on the steering wheel. Put your hands on the steering wheel.
Police previously told us Diaz was shot after disobeying the officer's commands and making a move as if to retrieve a gun.
At approximately 1:52 a.m.
But Chief Eric Smith told News 6 the morning of the shooting that a gun was never found.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
OPD for the motherfucking 50th, 100,000 time. Yes, I'm fucked up. But anyways, man, we checking up out of here. It's ClayEnterprise Newsletter Podcast, episode 5. I'm your boy Terence Clay, and I'm out of this bitch. Peace.